So, who remembers dog tags? If you do, you're close to my age. Uh, we used to have take cover drills in a school and grade school, and I imagine that's a lot like shooter drills that they have now for kids because of this attack on schools. But we had take cover drills, and those were in case of a nuclear attack. We were to get down on our hands and knees underneath our wood desks, and that would save us. And I actually didn't understand this until they issued us these little steel tags with our names. They were really identification tags with our names and everything on them. And I brought them home. My mother became hysterical. She went, why not give me that? And I thought, oh, look at this nice necklace I have, Mommy. Look what they gave you in school. And she, no, get away, get away. Well, my mother was very, very taken with take cover drills. She used to wake us up in the middle of the night. She was sure she had heard sirens. We had a big siren. We lived in New York on 96th Street, East 96th Street. And there was a big, big siren on the corner where there was actually a drugstore, which, by the way, in the old days, they had stools in drugstores, and people literally hung out there. They went there and had a sundae or a coffee at night, and they hung out there at the drugstore. It was, if you weren't a drinker and go to a bar, and my mother and my stepfather used to hang out there. Going down memory lane this morning. And so she would wake us up in the middle of the night and say, oh, we have to go in the middle of the apartment, which, by the way, there was a hallway, and at the end of which was a large mirror. She didn't take that into consideration. And, take cover. And this went on for a while until my brother, who at the time was at 6 years old, so that would have made me 10 years old, he said, I don't care if I die, I'm not getting up. And that was it. We didn't have to take cover anymore. He was destined to be what he became, a lawyer. So one of the things I'm bringing this up about is that as a consequence of living like that as a child with a certain sense of death, and we were not at war. I mean, we were at war, but we weren't in the war. They weren't dropping bombs on us on 96th Street. But we knew about it. I mean, we saw it on TV, we heard it on the radio. Had uncles who were in war, had come home from it. And that sense of threat was always there. And then there was the Cuban Missile Crisis, and that was like around, 61, 62, something like that. And I was then in my early 20s. So I really, all my life, had a sense that I wasn't going to live very long. And I lived that way, as if, eat, drink, and be merry, for tomorrow we die. And that seemed like a, cool and hip way to be. And what I realized, and the whole point of this, is that when I turned 25, I went, oh my God, I'm not going to die. I'm not going to die young. And I had to plan a new life for myself, because I literally planned my life to, like, I'm getting out when I'm 25 and, drinking, taking drugs, and generally not being, generally being I know that we were a minority, but we were the first generation of children who had allowances, for instance, and who advertisers catered to. It was the first generation of children. Up until then, the children were like seen and not heard, which was my early childhood, like seen and not heard, and get smacked around and beaten. That was normal. That was absolutely normal for me to be spanked, sometimes with a strap. With my grandmother, who was Italian, they were more like smacking, They didn't have a ritual. But my father, he had a ritual. We won't go there because, I spent a lot of years in therapy. We don't need that again. But a constant threat to my physical being, and that was the norm. And now it feels a lot like that for these kids in school who are doing shooter drills. And I do wonder, I'm seeing it now, and I'm sure you are too. We're seeing a generation of young people who are like, hey, you guys have not done a good job. We want to take control. And you know what? They might be right. They might be right. Now, because some of them have already clearly, at an earlier age than 25, say, oh, I'm not dead. I got out of high school. I got out of college. I'm not dead. Let's plan a life in which more people can live healthy lives without being under constant threat. And I know this comes at a very strange time considering what's going on, not only in the United States, but across the world, where everybody seems to, a large number of people have decided that apparently fascism is preferable to socialism. And I'm going like, we might have to take another look at this, guys. Fascism hasn't worked out in the history. But then again, capitalism has not really worked out either. And that's really been, it's really been a war. It's really been a fight. You all know that. We've fought. Anybody who's near my age, even if you're 60 years old, you know that we have had to fight for labor, for a work week, for a decent pay, for anything. And we see that there are countries that still have that fight, you know. It's worth it. It's worth it. Hang on there. Keep living. It's worth it.